Misconceptions. I wonder, when you think about misconceptions, what comes to your mind? I tried to think about the earliest misconception I had as a kid. So I did what every product manager does when they get stuck. I asked my mum for her opinion. And she told me that when I was a little kid, a toddler, I used to believe that if you kissed a girl, that's how she got pregnant. How embarrassing. I can assure you I eventually worked that one out. I have two beautiful children. So today I'm going to share with you a whole bunch of misconceptions, not about me being a toddler, hopefully. I'll save that one for the party tonight. But about the product management craft. And I'm sharing with you these misconceptions built on about my experience of being at Atlassian for about 10 years. But also a lot of our customers are product managers, like many of you here. And so I actually get to interview them about how they do product management as well. And so today I've picked 3 misconceptions from sort of 3 different categories that I've seen us learn and, to be honest, relearn over the many years. One category around just the day-to-day aspects of being a product manager and that kind of work. Another one about working with other teams. And a third about what Martin touched earlier, about your growth as a product manager and your career path. So let's dive straight into it. First misconception, product managers make all the decisions, right? Around 10 years ago when I fell into product management, I thought it was my job to decide everything, and I certainly see this for a lot of the new product managers that join us as well. There'll be a line on my desk with all the questions that I had to answer, and I felt great. I was answering them for the team. No, don't do this, don't do that. Go down this, make the button red, not blue, all the important questions. And I thought it was proof that I was doing the right thing. More and more things started to pile on my desk, and I was, dodging them and answering them and moving the team forward as quick as I could. And then things just got overwhelming very quickly when all of a sudden I just couldn't keep up with anything, and I had no time to focus on the bigger things, but I was just answering all the day-to-day things. At this stage of my career, I had one of those one-on-one meetings that you have with your manager. You know how you're just in this venting moment where I've got so much to do, and the team wants this, and then I need to do this, and the design wants this, and the writers want this, and you can sort of tell that your manager is looking straight past you, and you're like, she's not listening, and she just let me finish my rant, and then at the end of it she said, Sherif, yeah, that's great. I think you need to spend more time on the more strategic things. The strategic things? I have no time to do this at all. What kind of product manager sits around all day going, ooh, I've got so much time to spend on strategy. We're so busy with our day-to-day stuff. This doesn't exist at all, does it? So I think what I've learned over the years, and I hear from many product managers, is that we need to switch our mindset with this decision-making statement. Instead of us owning all the decision-making, in reality, we own all the velocity of decision-making. And I think when we do this, we can approach this problem with a very different lens. Now, there's lots to say about how to make better decisions. Amazon's famous two-way door framework, I don't know if you've heard of that one, or the tree framework for making decisions. I'm not going to go into all those things today. They're really helpful. You should definitely look into them. But if I had to share with you one thing that I've seen in my career that has really helped us make better decisions as product managers and increase the decision-making velocity, it would be this. Every time you focus on building a shared understanding with your whole team of all the things that you're doing in your product, instead of focusing on the day-to-day executional work, you can have a massive impact on decision-making velocity. A shared understanding of your customer, who they are, what their problems are, what is your product vision and strategy. Now, I should note, this isn't just about decision-making in general. It's really about all the day-to-day things that you do in your product craft, right? Maintaining the roadmap, breaking down a problem into stories, owning the backlog. Actually, while we're on the topic of backlog, can I just say to you all here, as someone who's standing here from the company Atlassian that makes that product Jira, yes, I'll take your feedback later, save it for the party. Something that pains me when I interview a lot of product managers is the amount of hours product managers spend on the backlog. Stay away from your backlogs. Run as far as you can. Now, this is not because you are more important than anyone else in your team. Absolutely not the case. It's because that if you spend that time building a shared understanding of the customer, the problems, the vision, your team can own the day-to-day stuff about moving your product forward, and you help them increase the velocity of decision-making. So how do you do this? Hopefully a lot of you over your careers are going to build a toolbox of all the techniques or the plays of how to make better decisions and how to improve the shared understanding with your team. There's a talk in each one of these topics, and this is not an exhaustive list at all, but I guess the idea here is that you're doing this as a team, not as an individual, right? And this is quite hard because building a shared understanding, the gratification is quite deferred. You don't see immediate impact. But I can tell you, every time you do this with your team, you'll see it pay back in the long run. As a simple example, a personal policy of mine or a belief of mine is never do a single piece of customer research by yourself. That is an absolute waste of time. Honestly, it'll make your job 10 times easier if you pull in your team with you. You'll have to do way less work. I love that. I'm really lazy. Way less convincing. But the amount of light bulb moments that click from engineering teams, designers, writers, whoever you bring with you, it's phenomenal. They're way more engaged in the problem, so much more passionate about solving the solution. So you've empowered them to make decisions faster for themselves. So the next question I get asked all the time is, okay, shared understanding, I get it. I'm supposed to be doing all these things to do a shared understanding. How do I know when I've reached that moment? How do I know that it's happened? Well, I don't know if you ever completely have shared understanding. We can always be doing more and more to learn in our customers about them and their problems. But I think there's lots you can do to understand the signals or the gaps that you might have in your team of where you should focus your efforts as a product manager to build a shared understanding with them. So here's a small technique that I use in a lot of my teams, the medium to larger teams. It's really helpful. If you want to try it, try it. I asked the team 3 simple questions on the who, the what, and the why. The who. I have enough customer feedback and context on what I'm working on. I have enough, not my product manager has, I as the engineer, or I as the writer, right? The second, on the what. I understand the problem that I'm working on. And lastly, the why. I understand how this fits into the bigger picture, the broader strategy. 3 simple questions. Now, I'm generally not a fan of surveys, but if you do have a medium-sized team, I've run this a few times in a little survey, rate from 1 to 5 sort of thing. Do you agree or disagree? And then when you run this with a few teams, you quickly understand where you as a product manager need to spend your time, right? Where should I spend my time? There's so many things I could be doing. In this specific example here, maybe you realize the team doesn't have enough context on the why, the bigger picture, maybe how it fits in the broader company strategy or the product vision. It's your job to work out, okay, go back to your toolbox, what things can I do to move that, rating of 2 to a rating of 3, a rating of 4, and you're always doing that together as a group of people. The other thing you could do is, I asked a whole bunch of product managers, how do you know you have shared understanding with your team? And they said, you can sort of see it with a bunch of signals. So here are some signals I got some quotes from people saying, maybe you haven't seen your Jira backlog for months and your team is running fine. Either that tells you you're pretty useless as a product manager, or you are doing a really good job of shared understanding. It's one of those 2 extremes. Maybe your team challenges you on something that they've got on their backlog that is not in their North Star. That's awesome. They're keeping us accountable. Maybe your team members know the customers by name. Or one of my favorites is you see an engineer get up to give a demo that can tell you why, what it is they're solving, why it's important to solve that, how this fits in the bigger picture, and how the solution solves that problem. When you're sitting back and you haven't prompted that engineer to do any of that, you're probably onto a really good sign that you're doing a good job of building a shared understanding with your team. So, product managers make all the decisions. I think it's a misconception, hopefully we've debunked today. Instead, we should be thinking about how we own the decision-making velocity and how we can help all our team to move faster in their decisions. Importance of building a shared understanding with our team, so continue to refine the different techniques that you have in your toolbox to do that. And if you can't talk to every member of your team, find ways to measure or work out if you are building this common brain. Try that simple survey, maybe look for those signs that I told you about, and see where you should spend your time on to help your team improve. All right, the second misconception. This idea that marketing-driven development is a bad thing. Let me explain what I mean by marketing-driven development. You know, the idea like someone's given you a launch date to meet, or they've got to write something for the blog, so they need you to produce a demo for it, or you have an event that's running and they need some content or a demo, that kind of stuff. Product teams generally like to stay away from marketing teams. Marketing's over there and product's over here. Maybe you hear some of this feedback from your team members. Oh, they're making us hack things up for this launch date and we're going to have lots and lots of tech debt. Or do we have to announce this thing early, really? Or do we have to announce it again? We already announced it. Or maybe a last one is that it's just all vaporware. We're creating these demos and it's just for this campaign or for this event or for this ad that, I don't even know it's going to have a bit of an impact. So how do we respond to this? Well, the first problem here really, it's actually probably more on us as product managers than it is on marketers, right? Our job is to make sure that our team can break down the problem into small enough deliverable chunks, right? And we've also got to be managing around us and upwards. We should be managing our stakeholders. Maybe you should think about decoupling a release, an announcement date from a shipping date. It's up to us to work with our marketing teams to do that. The second one, there's a pretty funny story I wanted to share here around communication and over-communication. About 3 years ago, we were working on something on a fairly big release in one of our products, and we knew it would take a few years to ship. It wasn't going to be an easy one. And we came to our annual customer conference, and we were debating if we should announce this to customers or not. So we're pre-announcing, and we're pre-announcing with years to go. It sounds like a great decision, huh? So we decided to tell customers. It was our most requested feature that customers wanted. And we're like, hey, people are paying money for these products. They want to know if we're working on it. So we announced it. A year later, at our second annual conference, we hadn't shipped it. What do we say? We're still working on it? And so we did. We announced it again. Now, I was sitting in my seat when we announced it, cringing, biting my nails, feeling really embarrassed, putting my head down. Oh, the product manager that works on that product, how embarrassing. I had so many customers after me going, I had no idea you're working on this. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And the ones that did remember from the year before were like, take your time. It's important you guys get this right. So they really appreciated the transparency and openness. And sometimes over-communication is okay. I guess the message here is that not all your customers know exactly what's in your backlog and what you're working on every day. They don't really care. You're probably obsessing with this particular problem area that you're working on. They're just trying to get on with their jobs. So don't ever overestimate the value of communication. The last one, this marketing vaporware problem. What do we do about this? Look, to be honest with you, all three of those little statements, they all hit at a bigger issue, which is this tension between a product team and a marketing team. Product is seen as building the right thing that people want, and the product sells itself. On the other side, you've got marketers that are like selling, something, if you do too much marketing, you're selling something that's not really real. So what do we do about this? If I ask you to pause for a moment and articulate in a few words in your mind, what is the relationship between your product team and your marketing team? I wonder what comes to mind. Maybe the fact that I'm calling them two separate teams is part of the problem, isn't it? Brian Donahue, who leads product at Intercom, a friend of ours, he has a great talk on this. And he talks about this idea of product purists. And there's a product-first mindset. And you think the best product always wins. And it totally diminishes the value of what great marketing does. He's got a talk at that link. I highly encourage you to go check it out. But the fact that I'm even calling marketing shows a lot of ignorance in this area, right? There's lots of things to do with marketing. Whether it be content marketing, brand, demand generation, all that kind of stuff, field marketing. There's lots of things to do with marketing. It's not just one function. But they all revolve around this heart of telling a great story. Telling customers why they should look into this thing. We all know people buy the why over the what, right? I work for the company that Jira Software used to be called Jira Agile. And I'd speak to so many customers that would tell me, I have Jira Agile, and I press the start sprint button, therefore I'm agile. What do you tell a customer that says that to you without sounding rude? But it's tough, isn't it? People buy the why, right? But that's the power of an amazing story. They don't realize it's all about a mindset. It's all about your people and your processes. It has very little to do with the actual tools. So I think for us as product managers, we should always be thinking about how we can bring this art of storytelling that our marketing departments teach us back to our product teams. It's incredibly powerful. And there may be a few plays you could do here, a few techniques. Maybe you can fake a landing page for the thing that you're working on before you even start coding, right? Test it out, get feedback. Maybe you've heard of Amazon's press release technique, where they write a press release for the thing they haven't even worked on yet and just sort of work out how it feels. Or you can visualize the end-to-end journey. Lots of different techniques that you should be looking at into helping your team tell better stories. One I wanted to share with you today is this idea of something called build a box. Anyone here done the build a box exercise? 1, 2 people, great. So I'll dive deep into this one because it's my favorite one personally, and hopefully it's a little activity that you can take back and do with your teams. This is an Australian cereal box called Weet-Bix. You guys get Weet-Bix here? Yes? No? Not really? I have to explain what it is because a few people said to me, why did you have a box of bird biscuits up before at another conference? I was like, we eat this stuff, right? When you go to a shopping center and you buy something, you decide what you're going to buy by the box, right? You literally pick up the box, you look at the front, you see maybe a hero shot and some key benefits in the yellow. You flip the back if you really want a whole lot more detail. We used to sell software like this. This is how we used to ship software, right? You have to go buy a physical box and get it in CDs or floppy disks or whatever, depending on how old you are. Probably showing too much of my age here. But this is a fun activity to do with your team. So what we do with some of our teams is we literally build a box for the problem that we're working on or the product that we're working on. And we literally get a box, stick paper around it, write, draw, do it as a team. It's fun. What is the hero shot? What's the one-line pitch? What are the 3 key benefits or 4 key benefits? What's on the side and the back? We do lots of these boxes for features, for products, for things that we haven't even built yet, and we test the story. We do it as a team, everyone in the team. Lots of techniques you can try in this particular thing. I want to give you the quick play in one slide. So it's a word-heavy slide, but hopefully it empowers you to try it yourself. Grab your team for an hour or 2 if you can. You need your whole product team, everyone involved, including marketing here I'm talking about. Paper, pens. If you can get some cardboard boxes and stick some paper around them, it adds to the fun, right? So try that. Then give your team a set of questions to answer on the who, the what, and the why again. Who would pick up your box, right? Who's the person picking it up? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Why would they pick this up? What problem are you solving? Can you articulate the problem or the benefit in a hero shot? What would that be? What would you illustrate? It doesn't have to be a screenshot. It could be a diagram. What are the supporting value props? And then ask about the why. Like, what are supporting features that communicate this benefit? What's on the front and the sides and the back? Some little pro tips. Maybe if you've got big enough teams, split into multiple teams and try it. Try teams playing against each other. Maybe try it from different personas and see what you get. A reminder, this doesn't have to be for every new product you launch, because we all don't do that every day. It could be for a particular problem or a feature that you're working on right now. The constraint of a physical box, and you're not going to write pages of writing, is great. And every time I've done this exercise, it's caused us to go back to our roadmaps and revisit some of the things that we thought we were going to build. Because we're like, the story would be so much better if, and then we would change something. We would go and research that thing. Is that assumption true? Is that hypothesis true? And then keep iterating on that. So that's the build a box exercise. So hopefully this idea that anything from marketing is a bad thing is a myth we can debunk with all our teams. Instead, we as product managers should be looking for more opportunities to focus on the story, right? People buy into the story. Educate your team on the value of great marketing. Ask yourself, what is your storytelling play? Do you have a technique that you go to with your teams? I just gave you one, the build a box exercise, but you can try any of these. Have one that you go to, that you encourage your team to all think about the story. So my last misconception. To progress in your career, you need to manage people. This is certainly something I've experienced in my time in product management, and every time I've got to share this with other product managers, I hear similar things. We all start out in our career and we take on one small area of the product, and then we take on larger initiatives, maybe we take on multiple products, bigger problems, and at some point we hit this crossroad where we have to decide, are we going to manage people or are we not? And it may seem right to become a manager of product managers, but it also may be right to have the biggest impact you could possibly have is just getting better at the thing that you're good at. And there might be different motivations for this. Maybe your manager's asked you to step up into the role. Maybe you feel like you can't have a significant impact on decisions or the product strategy. There's a layer of the organization that goes and does that in a room, and you're not involved in that layer of the organization. Or maybe you just feel like there's no other way to get promoted. None of these motivations are necessarily bad. I think it just presents a challenge for us as the product discipline for how we attack these problems. Hunter Walk, who ran product at YouTube for many years, shared about this experience that he had at Google. And he talks about if Google gave him the opportunity to be involved in the broader strategy without having to manage dozens of people, maybe he would have stayed for a bit longer. This is certainly a challenge that we have had ourselves at Atlassian as well. We've had a lot of people getting into management for all the wrong reasons when we think about it. So what do we do about this? So one technique I've tried is from this book, the How Google Works book. Jonathan Rosenberg, former SVP of Google, has this section in there about write your CV from 10 years from now. Write your CV 10 years from now. And I remember when I first came across this activity, I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I got a piece of paper on my desk, and I was like, senior product manager, head of product, that sounds good, yeah. VP of product, that's awesome. CIO, no, I don't know, we'll see. And I was writing job titles. In hindsight, that was all on me. I felt like to progress in my career, I needed to climb this ladder of job titles, right? And I wasn't writing the things that I was passionate about, the activities that I like doing. You know, it's better for me to align on what I like enjoying. Do I want to launch new products? Do I want to improve an existing product? Do I want to work closer with marketing? Those are the activities that I should have been writing, but I didn't. You see, most traditional PM career paths look like this. You start at the bottom, and you work your way up. No wonder sometimes people say you've got to step up into management. But has anyone ever stopped and asked why? So at Atlassian, we've followed, a lot of other companies have started doing this, so this is not particularly new, but it's worked really well for us. We've created two tracks, a dual track, an individual contributor track and a management track, a manager of product managers track. Now, to be clear, when you want to move from being an individual contributor to a manager, that's not seen as a step up, but rather a horizontal move. People should do the type of work that they find most fulfilling and are most valuable to the company, no matter if they're managing people or not. By the way, if some of you are looking at this chart, thinking a bit further ahead, you're probably thinking, does that mean it's possible for a manager to manage someone who's getting paid more than them? Totally. We should be open to this, and we should encourage this if this is going to have the right behaviors that we want people to have. The other thing to consider is a growth profile for the different types of roles you can have in your company. This is a very quick summary of ours. We have the different types of product managers. We try to describe them in one word, which is a great forcing function. If you had to articulate that role in one word, what would it be? We describe the role. And for us at Atlassian, we have 4 expectations that we ask of our product managers. Now, this is very specific to our culture, so you want to think about how work gets done in your company and what expectations would you have. For us, it's about leading and inspiring others. It's about mastery, delivering outcomes, and being a great communicator. And we articulate what those things are so people can see how they can grow and progress as a product manager without having to manage people. The other thing to remember is that not every product manager is the same, right? If you do a quick Google, you can find lots of frameworks for the different kinds of product managers that are out there. So there's... That is my incognito Google results for that, by the way. But there is a few of these frameworks out there, and Joff Redfern, who runs product for us at Atlassian, used to run product at LinkedIn. He has a very simple framework. It's called a PM craft triangle. And you can Google this. He has a general manager, an artist, and a scientist. And he asks you to think about where are you today and where do you want to go. Scientist is very focused on the quant, very data-focused, heavy, sort of head of a heart kind of person. The artist is vision and emotionally driven, loves storytelling and inspired by design. You've got the general manager who thinks about the business holistically. None of these are a ladder. It's about where you want to go in that triangle. And so you need to think about where you are today and where you would like to go, and be honest with yourself to find the activities that you love doing the most. So, to progress as your career, you need to manage people. Hopefully, I've given you a few insights and debunking this myth, and actually it's all about finding and discovering what you're passionate about. And I use the word discover because you may want to try the other role and have empathy for the other role, whether it be managing or individual contributors, or maybe you need to swing between both every now and then to work out what you're passionate about. Things to try. Try the 10 years from now exercise if you're not sure. Don't write job titles, write the activities that you like to do. Ask yourself, where are you in that PM craft triangle, and where do you want to go? Maybe you're towards the bottom left of being an artist, and you want to go further into being an artist. That's totally fine. Maybe you want to move up. If you're managing, have a think about how you can improve your career paths in your company, which can be harder if you're in a bigger organization. Maybe you don't have influence over the career path there. But there is something you can do, which is involve individual contributors in the strategic things, regardless of that org chart that might be out of your control, depending on how large your org is. So, 3 misconceptions that we've covered today of the product craft. First, we looked at product management making all the decisions. In reality, we need to remember that we own the decision-making velocity. Our job is to build a shared understanding with our team, and I gave you hopefully a few different ways that you can identify gaps of where you should focus your efforts. The second one is this idea of working with marketing is a bad thing and they always do things for the wrong motivations. But in reality, we need to embrace the art of storytelling and find ways to do storytelling with our teams. Educate your team on the value of great marketing. Ask yourself, what is your go-to play for telling a story? And lastly, we just looked at how to progress your career as being a product manager. You don't need to manage people. Maybe you want to, but discover what you're passionate about. Find out what that is. Try different activities. Try the 10 years from now exercise. If you're a manager, think about how you can empower individual contributors to be involved regardless of where they are in the organization. So I hope I've debunked some myths for you today in the product craft. Thank you very much.